We've got Charleston Hughes, introductory press conference today. As most of you guys know, 6-time CFL All-Star, 8-time West Division All-Star, been in the league 12 seasons, led the league in sacks 5 times, including 4 seasons in a row, 130 career sacks, 7th all-time. Hoping he can break it at BMO Field. 2 Grey Cups to go along with it. And a guy we are super excited is going to be terrorizing other teams' backfields instead of our own. Charleston, I'll throw it over to you. You can say a few words, and then we will open it up to questions. I'll spotlight you, and you're good to go.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for that wonderful introduction. That was awesome. Yeah. I mean, I guess the only thing I really can say right now is, just thank the Riders organization for, the last couple of years that I spent there and, even going through a pandemic. So I really can say the last 3 years that I spent there, thanks for all the, support that the team has done and helped me out, in my times that I was there. Thanks to all the fans from the Riders. It was awesome having all the fans at every event that I've ever had within the city or within Saskatchewan. So it was good to be a part of the organization. The fans made it, great to be there. But sorry, it's always on to the next, and Toronto's the next place for me to be, and it's going to be an awesome experience. Going in there, in a different territory, a different environment than what I'm used to. So, I'm stepping outside my comfort zone to try new things and be a part of what I deem to be a better team.
Awesome. Thanks, Charleston. I'd like to welcome in VP of Player Personnel, John Murphy. Murph, thanks for joining us today. So we'll open it up to questions. We'll go ahead to Frank Ziccarelli to start. Frank, go ahead, ask your question.
Oh, thanks for doing this, Charleston. Charleston, I'm just curious, growing up in Michigan and sort of, evolving as a football player as a kid or a teenage, did you ever watch an Argo game? Were you ever aware of Toronto, the football? Like, is there any connection that you had?
Not really, man. Honestly, I didn't even know, CFL football existed until I came to Canada. I really didn't know the rest of Canada existed, to be honest, man. All I knew was Windsor, and everything else outside of Windsor was igloos. So, so I really had no reality outside of it. I was kind of stuck in the bubble because I was from a small city. So we really didn't see much outside of that city or outside of Detroit, Windsor, that whole little region.
Fair enough. Now you joined an Argo team, obviously, with some guys that you played with. Can you just talk briefly about what kind of teammate Cordero Law and what kind of player he is?
Cordero Law, man, when I played with Cordero, it was in the heat of his, his rookie season, really, in the CFL. So he came up and made a quick impact, and he made so much of a great impact that it sent him down to the NFL. I played with that guy for a number of years, man, and know what he can bring to the table. I know, what kind of pass rusher he is. I think we complement each other well because he's just as smart of a player as I am. So when you got 2 guys like that who can think on the go and really, have an effect in a football game and be very disruptive, it's something to be heard of.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go next to Justin Dunk, 3 Down Nation.
Charleston, man, thanks for doing this. I'm just wondering if you can take us through what exactly happened with Jeremy O'Day and what led to your release there. He obviously had his media availability yesterday and was talking about the agreement just really couldn't happen on both sides. So what happened there and led to the release and then you signing with the Argos?
Just really what happened is just like you said, it was just a disagreement. Like he had one vision in his eyes and I had another vision and we couldn't see eye to eye on things. When it all came down to it, it just came down to me not being valued enough to the team. My value wasn't there. And he actually, when Otoli, different direction. We tried to make it work the best way as possible when it comes to being, valued a little bit more on the team. But the finance is the finance, and that's way above my head.
It seemed like you were pretty fair in terms of what you were asking for. Like Willie Jefferson's at 205, you led the league in sacks, so it would only be at least comparable that you would be in that range. So were you surprised that the Riders weren't able to come up and want to secure the guy that led the league in sacks?
I mean, the one thing that I am and is that I'm understanding. I'm understanding of, we are going through a pandemic right now and everybody's in a financial crisis. But I think when it comes to my ability on the field, my ability is top dollar, ability. But I mean, if we weren't going, I look at it as though if we weren't going through a pandemic, then yeah, I'll be making the money that I'm supposed to be making. But I think we also got to keep in mind when I'm negotiating, my contracts for myself, I'm negotiating my contracts based on, what I think my value is to the team and what I think my value lays in the rest of the league. So based on that, I felt like, okay, all those guys, yeah, they took pay cuts, but based on where I am financially, to the team, should I take a pay cut? Probably not. But was I willing to take a pay cut? Yes, I was. But the simple fact that it came down to was just I wasn't able to take a pay cut in the way I wanted to be it to be structured. If I want to take a pay, if I'm going to take a pay cut and sacrifice for the team, which I've been sacrificing already, I have to be able to do it in a manner where I still feel comfortable to do it, right?
Yeah, and just one last quick one. Is there any ill will towards the Riders, and do you have those dates circled on your schedule?
No ill will, man. It's their loss. They lost me in the way that they did. So, I think we only play them maybe one time next season. So, that one time is circled, but it's not circled because of the team. It's circled just to revisit the fans. The fans are what made this team, incredible to play for. So when it all boils down to it, I'm coming back to see all the fans, all the people that I actually meet, off the field and go out to lunch with and stuff like that. Those are the people who will make this team great.
Thanks, John.
And Charleston, did you see yourself as a recruiter bringing guys to Toronto?
No, not really. I don't even talk to none of those guys. I kind of change my phone number every 3 days. So it's hard for guys to keep up with me. But the thing is that, I've played with all these guys before. So they all know me just as good as I know them. So when it comes down to it, it'll be just like when you go home after you've been gone traveling after so many years and you go home for Thanksgiving or you go home for Christmas to see family. And it's like, oh, where you been? How you been? What's going on? You revisit, you come together, you figure out where that person's been, where you've been, what experiences you have, how have we evolved over time? Once you bring all that, what's different now, bring to what you can put together and build on today, then that's what makes the team great.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, Matt. We'll move to Sean Bowen, Toronto Argonauts.
Charleston, great meeting you, my man. How are you doing?
All right, pretty good.
Just a quick question for you. When you look at this lineup and all the names that Murph and Pinball have added throughout the course of the offseason, does this add pressure for new guys coming in to live up to the hype that's surrounding this team moving forward?
No, man, it's no pressure. You just come in and you got to learn. That's how it happens every time. No one's going to have to come in here and, establish themselves right away. For anything, it's a learning process when you come to the CFL. You come into the league and you have to, pick it up over time. Like even when I first came to the league, it wasn't an easy task. I got cut my first year in the CFL in camp. So it was like, okay, I had to learn the hard way that once you get cut, okay, I didn't do enough. Revisit again and figure out what I can do to, do more, that I can add to a program. And once guys the fastest one that can put it together are the ones that play. And that's really what it all boils down to. So there's no pressure involved in it. It's just, you got to figure it out. You got to learn what you need to learn, learn from, the veterans on the team and, share knowledge.
Thanks, Sean. David Morisuti, fan-sided.
Welcome, Charleston, to Toronto, first and foremost. Just want to get your thoughts on when you look at the roster and all the moves that have been made, and a lot of people saying Toronto has done a very good job with all the additions that have been made. As a player, what's kind of the mindset to not let that kind of build up to, and you mentioned pressure. How do you avoid the pressure of, living up to the expectations of Toronto having a good offseason, but now having to put it together on the field?
I mean, really, you just got to do what you do best, man. You got to worry about what I have at stake at hand. I know what my goals are. I know what I'm shooting for. I know where I want to be when it's all said and done at the end of the season. And once you have those goals set in mind and you just write your list down and have everything, in your locker mapped out in front of you, then you just slowly check them off one by one. So there's like I said, there's no pressure revolved around that. Really, the one thing that it adds more motivation. That's how I look at it. More motivation to keep checking off everything on that list, checking off all your goals, checking off what you have at hand. For most of the guys that are coming into the league, man, I'm willing to teach these guys everything I know. I'm coming in to win a championship. I'm coming to win. Obviously, Toronto's bringing all these great players onto this roster. They're bringing all these great players in for a reason, because that shows me that the winning mentality is there.
Thanks, David. Appreciate it. We'll move next to Frank Stanici, Candid Frank Live. Go ahead, Frank.
Charleston, so now you're here with the Toronto Toronto Argonauts. And you're good. I think the biggest challenge you're going to have is after a sack, hopping into that lake to really do some surfing. How good is it going to be really near a lake to be able to do your shtick, if you will, like we call it here in Toronto? Is there going to be any change?
I don't think there's going to be any change, man. I do what I do the best, the most. I get as many, disruptive plays. I try to be, as annoying to the quarterback as possible. And by the way, how long was you holding that Toronto Stampeders joke in?
Oh God! Well, I guess they signed Odell today.
Yeah.
It looks like you guys get a chance to revisit, if you know what I mean. Calgary, you're coming to an Argonaut team that hasn't had much success recently. You and the rest of those guys that you were referring to have had a lot of success. Not as many Grey Cups as you would like, but speak to the opportunity and what made you think that here in Toronto, because I can't believe that people like you and Odell and others would come here if you didn't think you had a chance to win. What makes this team, in your mind, worth coming to and hoping that you can actually win the big game? Because that's really all that matters, right?
Yeah, that's really all that matters, is winning a big game, man. When it comes down to it, like I said, you got your goals in mind. You got everything set. But what it comes down to is, just like John Murphy just said, it's the last team standing at the end. And how do you become the last team standing at the end? You got to build a team for success. Right now, I think we're building the team for success. I think we got the guys to do it. We got a lot of guys who know what it's like to win. We also got a lot of guys who know what it's like to lose. So when you got those two, aspects working together, you got those two things that can really be put together, and you got guys that know what it's like to win championships, but you also got guys that know what it's like to lose championships. Man, you got a lot of people in the locker room who are going to be real hungry for winning the championship and winning ball games. I know for me, it was a struggle in Saskatchewan my very first year, because although, I came from Calgary and I came from more of a win program, and then I go into Saskatchewan, we might have lost maybe our first 4 out of 6 games during the first part of the season. And I was losing my mind the whole time and going crazy, like mentally going through it, telling players like, we can't do this, we can't play like this. But that was just, you know, the competitive side of me just trying to spark something in the team, trying to tell the team something to say, come on, man, we gotta win. When you know, you have somebody on your team that can inspire guys like that, who I can say, I inspired Cody Fajardo to go out and win a ball game, who I can say I inspired guys to turn a new leaf and go out and, you know, avoid the penalty that another guy's trying to get out of you, try to get a 15-yard out of you. Try to avoid those situations, because all that stuff affects ball games. So when you got a guy like that, and now around a bunch of guys like that, come on, it's hard to deny us.
You spend a lot of time in the West, obviously. That this is your first visit to the East as a player for a team in the East. How does it change your personal scouting as far as quarterbacks is concerned? Because, you know, you love to be close to quarterbacks. So tell us a little bit about the roster of quarterbacks that you see in your mind and how you may act a little differently. Is there a change, or is just a quarterback a quarterback?
I mean, I don't have to change nothing. I do. For anything, it sounds like they're going to have to do a lot more studying and changing stuff around, right? Yeah, so I think they're going to have to do more game planning for me than I will for them.
We're going to move on quickly to Justin Dunk here, 3 Down Nation.
Okay.
Hey, Charleston, I got one for you and then one for Murph after. Did you find a difference in terms of dealing with O'Day in contract negotiations versus John Murphy and even pinball?
Yeah, man, I think what it really boils down to is just being somewhere where you're wanted, where you're valued. So going through negotiation with O'Day, I just felt like it was complicated. It was complicated from his end, and it was complicated from my end. So when you got two people looking at each other, just going, just looking at a contract doing this the whole time, then I mean, that's hard negotiation right there. I mean, it's two people looking at the contract going, I can't do it. And he's looking at me the same way. So that alone is hard. It feels like I'm negotiating on Kijiji over a cell phone.
That's amazing.
Frank Ciccarelli, Toronto Sun, back to you.
Hey, Charleston, I'm always intrigued by numbers. 39. What's the history behind 39?
I couldn't get 30. I wore 30 in high school, and I was 96 in college. So I wanted to go back to my high school number. So I couldn't get 30. So I tried to get the closest thing to it. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Renee Paradise stole 30 and left me with 39.
You got to blame it on the kicker.
Blame it on the kicker. And he would not give it up.
Charleston, my background is also NBA. Years ago, I mean, you know, they're obviously in a different financial neighborhood, those guys. But when a player comes, well, when he came to the Raptors, I can't name his name. He gave a teammate $100,000 to get that guy's number. So the Argos had Robbie Smith, a Canadian rookie, 39. Did you give him a gift certificate to Best Buy or any kind of show of appreciation for him, allowing him to give you your number?
I got something special for him, man. I'm gonna have a nice little care package for him when I first get to meet him. You know, I haven't really spoke to him yet or talked to him about it, but I'm gonna have something nice for him. So he was actually he worked with me pretty well on the number, so he wasn't really caught up about the number, I think, but I'll still give him something in the end.
Charleston, on a more serious note, obviously last year, no football. This year, they're hoping for football. How's it been for a veteran not being able to, play football?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, man. I mean, I just look at it this way. I mean, although there wasn't no football, the next, part of life is life after football. So this was like a slow introduction into life after football. So when you went into this pandemic and all this stuff happened and there was no sports, everybody was at home for 14 days, couldn't do nothing, stuck at home, no work. The whole entire country was shut down. if you didn't figure out, you know, an entrepreneurial plan or some kind of a hustle during this pandemic, then you wasted your time during it. So my thing is that I think it made a lot of people, you know, better people, you know, because of it, because it was a humbling experience. And it was one of those things where I think I improved, really, you know, personally. I improved my mental, I improved my health. I had time to look at myself in the mirror and figure out, what do I want to do? Where do I want to be? And what direction I want to take.
Charleston, my last question is, obviously early this week, Solomon Elamimian announced his retirement. What kind of legacy do you think he leaves behind, and what kind of impression did he have on you?
Man, he had a good impression on me, man. Like I wrote him a message on Twitter saying, like, you know, and I talk to Sally on a regular basis just about life, football stuff, how everything going. And he was by far probably one of the top, if not the top 3 linebackers I've ever played with in my entire career. You know, he's a ball player. You know, even when I first met him, I used to envision him to be this 6'4", 255-pound linebacker. And then when I met him in person and he was 5'6", 235, I was almost disappointed, because I was like, you're smaller than me, and you're playing like he's the stats that I just gave you. He's playing big out there. So when you got a guy like that you know is a Hall of Famer and that you've, you know, established football with on the field, I'm glad I was a part of his legacy, and I'm glad he was a part of mine when it all boils down to it.
Thank you, Charleston.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Awesome. So if there's no further questions, I just want to thank Charleston for being here with us today. Welcome to Toronto. I hope everyone enjoys their long weekend, Family Day weekend. It's a holiday for us, Charleston, up here in Canada. You're here though. You're in Saskatchewan, I think, are you?
Yeah, I'm in Saskatchewan, so it's
all right,
good.
so you take Monday off then. Take Monday off.
Already off.
They have President's Day there.
Perfect. That's true, Frank. Okay, thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Enjoy your weekend. Take care.
Thanks.
Hey, David,